Is she? You get a tour. You get a tour.
Where?
Dave's.
I saw it on video. I don't care about other people's bathroom renovations. I'm just.
It's okay, and then.
That's what.
We're ready when we're. All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. We'll call this committee of the whole meeting to order. We are in council chambers in the village of Westport. It's Tuesday, March the 4th at 5 p.m. So before we actually get the meeting underway, I would like to talk a little bit about what's transpired in the last 24 hours. The days of waiting and wondering what Mr. Trump was going to do came about last night at midnight, and there's lots of ways that it's been described. You know, I'm staying with it's an economic attack on our country. So I wanted everybody to think, and particularly the people watching as well, like, who are we as Canadians? We know we're a proud people. We know in the village, you know, we're kind of working everyday people. A lot of us have retired from working a day jobs. And yet we love Canada, and you can measure that in many ways. Those of us who go to the hockey games. The singing of the national anthem has always been loud. Well, it's loudest now. And even the people who normally didn't sing or take their hats off, you know, we are really feeling that as Canadians, we know we're free and we're strong and we love Canada. And beyond that, we know how to scrap. We know what it means to be in a fight, and we know what we need to do to defend our country, defend our traditions, our cultures, our jobs, our families, our children, our grandchildren. So there's a lot at stake. And everybody wants to do something right now. Marty sent me an email today and he said, why don't we talk about this tonight? And I'm getting that at other boards that I'm at as president of AMO. I get people from across the province saying, what are we doing? Well, we waited until last night to find out whether or not Mr. Trump was going to put the tariffs in place. And now we just need to wait a little bit longer. The whole issue of what can we tell our people to do in regards, when we look at our own procurement, we really need to wait until we get legal advice in regards to NAFTA. So many people have said to me, well, he's not obeying it, so we don't have to. Okay, if we just wait a little bit longer, we're going to get the proper legal opinion on how we can get around the legislation. So we need to kind of bear those things in mind. But we also need to bear in mind, we collectively, all of us in this room, think that what Mr. Trump has done is despicable, it's irresponsible, and we don't know when it's going to end. But we're not upset with our American cottagers, tourists, and the people who come to our village. And so that's going to be part of what can we do. You know, it's going to be Easter soon, and that's when we start to see some of the people come into Canada, come up, check their cottages, do things like that. So I just implore us that stay in our lane, and our lane is right now around the economics. We've got really smart people in the government. We're committed, I hope, to Team Canada, to work as a nation, adopting the same policies and bylaws here that they'll be doing across the nation and in Ontario. And so that's going to be difficult for some people, because some people are going to have an opinion and not agree with things that they're saying. And all I ask is, they've been at this for 2 months now. They've looked at probably every option available, what can be done. We don't have to agree, but let's try and support them, as opposed to going on any social media saying, I don't agree with this and I would do it this way. That's not helpful. We really can be part of the solution, even here in Westport, by being part of Team Canada, Team Ontario, and Be United. I know it's going to be hard. We will watch as the days progress, what happens. But I firmly believe that the people that we have who've been researching this and working on our behalf are, first of all, they have the best interest of Canada at what they're doing. And they are very, very much smarter than me on this. And they are doing, again, what they believe is in the best interest of Canada. So that's sort of my update as we get more. Of course, as with my other role, you'll get it maybe sooner than other people. When we have meetings, I'll share with you what AMO is doing. I also sit on FCM, which is the Federal Municipal Association. I had a meeting yesterday and I'm looking for a change of day here because I'm going to 2 days of FCM meetings later in March. And, this will be the subject of discussion. There are things that are relevant to Ontario only that we are looking at. AMO has taken a couple of very bold steps. One in contracting with an economist firm, consultants, to really help us do a few things. But one of the tools that we hope to get out of this is for each individual municipality to make some determinations on what the impacts are going to be in their municipality, which will help greatly with budgeting and other things. That stuff takes a little bit of time to pull together, but believe me, we've asked them to be as nimble as possible. So the tariffs are here. We have the opportunity to remind ourselves how proud we are to be Canadians. And I just ask everybody that when the Americans come up to enjoy us, that what did you say? You didn't know I was going to talk about this, Councillor Crafter, but you were referring to something else and you said, well, come stay. So let's really keep our Canadian friendly approach to people when they come to visit. It's the government that we are going to work with our government to get through this in the best way possible. So those are my opening comments. That being said, I'll turn it to to Councillor Aragona.
We will begin this meeting of the Committee of the Whole by acknowledging that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. Long before today, as we gather here, there have been Aboriginal peoples who have been the stewards of this place. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Wendat, and Haudenosaunee people.
Thank you very much, and say thank you for the promotion.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm normally promoting people to constable, but you got mayor. Okay, we're at 3.1, which is the adoption of the agenda. It's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting for March 4th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Any comments? I'll call the question. All in favor, and that's carried. Perfect. Any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none. Now we will welcome the chair of the Westport Library Board, Jamie Chapman, up to give a presentation. So I just remind council that this is an opportunity for the library board to propose what they are looking for in the 2025 budget. It's an opportunity for you to ask questions. Our debate would take place at the budget discussion. So we should only have questions for you that aren't really hard.
I'm all fired up, ready to take off the gloves
Okay.
after that.
Strong and free. Please
Maybe
go
I'll
ahead.
ask for more.
Go ahead, David.
Okay, so this was going to be electronic, but paper's fine, so you can follow along. So my sidekick, you might have noticed, is not here, so this will not be either as long or as eloquent. Well, short and direct here. The first, what I'm basically going to do is provide an overview of the library, the relationship between the library and the village, what's happened this year, and there have been a lot of, it's been a busy board, busy staff, and I think we've accomplished a lot. And then provide some kind of rationale for where we're heading with a budget request. So the first slide, or the first page, is just an outline of accomplishments. I'm not going to go through them all, but suffice it to say that I'm very happy to get the facilities use agreement, because I think we have kind of greater clarity, and there is a commitment by the village, which is fabulous for the library. And we have procedures as far as when we collaborate on anything to do with the facility. So it is a good step forward. There's been a number of enhancements to the library. You might have noticed that if you come in that there is a new lounge for greenish leather chairs. And downstairs in the used book area, that's all been kind of cleaned up and sorted. There's a library records room now, which has most of our important records and files. We got some new LED lights, compliments of the village. Just one day, the guys just came and lights were installed and it was magic.
Can see.
Yeah, that's right. And that used bookstore is it's amazing. It's one of the most popular aspects of the library, and we had almost $6,000 in revenue last year. And that's just people reaching into their pockets, and so that is very encouraging. We also have a new reception area with new cabinetry, and we've tried to kind of consolidate storage in the front, so whoever is working the library, or it's almost always Pam, she doesn't have to go to the back storage room to find something. It's central. We have 2 new laptops for library patrons, which I think will become even more useful in the summertime, when we have a lot of cottagers up. We have started a new website. It's under construction. I think it's pretty central, important piece of the communications program that we need. It's getting there. I think the village is probably aware of the challenges in creating websites, but we're getting there. And then we also have an online repository. That's Trevor's term. It's a good one for our policies and procedures, and we've been steadily building that up, and it's turned out to be, I think, very effective in kind of concentrating our efforts. We all put things in the same spot, and we also have a new open source way of communicating called Signal, which has also turned out to be much better than the email that we were doing before. So that's all good. As you're aware, we collaborated on a Trillium grant, and that if we can make our library accessible, of course, that's a fabulous step forward, and we will make it accessible. And then we have noticed, because of the watercolor development, there have been more people in the library, especially families. We have members of our board who are from watercolor. So there's a kind of new bustle to the library, which is very, very welcome. The second page is just an overview of the new partnership arrangement. I won't go through each of those, but suffice it to say, it's important that we know our areas of responsibility. And to be honest, I think it's a kind of generous package that the village has picked up. And the library is now moving towards, or is in the process this year, of assuming responsibility for our financial matters, processes, and procedures. And I think in the long run, or even very shortly, this will be a good thing. I think we're committed to making it work. And at the end of this year, we want to have a financial arrangement that is kind of transparent. It's simple. It's something that can be transferred to new board, new staff. It's not expensive to run, but to get there, we will have to hire somebody as a consultant to make sure that all of the necessary structures and oversight are in place. So the library is actually and Pam, she knows over the years she has acquired a kind of practical experience, and she knows the numbers. She can find them, and that's been very important at this point.
When you go to the next page, so we generally would be cautious with this page. Did the CAO speak to you already?
Oh, yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
won't, yeah.
So if we put anything online, this would be redacted for obvious
Right.
reasons, okay?
Right, that's fine. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to itemize
Yeah.
anything in this case, so just to point out that the library is really dependent on fundraising and donations and grants. And it is kind of remarkable that we've done what we've done. It's a testament to the community, really, I think, who's very generous and very supportive of the library. But moving forward, we are going to have to really think hard about getting structures in place for fundraising and donations and legacies that we can count on. Because that revenue has to come in every year. And we have to be, I think, conservative. We have to have reserves for bad years and this sort of thing. But that's what we're moving towards, kind of understanding how our library operates and always being a few years ahead. Then the next piece of paper just gives you an idea of community support for the library and how committed our patrons are. Just a footnote, the general donations of 12,000 for this year, it turns out, found out that some of that is 2023 donations, so it was a good year. It wasn't as brilliant as this, but it still gives you an idea that it is it's very much dependent on the support of the community and our ability, I think, to kind of earn their trust. And that's something that we have to do. The next page is our financial priorities. And as I've already mentioned, we really need to put in place kind of annual structures of fundraising and donations. We have to be kind of vigorous and diligent with grants. I have a meeting tomorrow with FOWL, and this is well, it's actually the first meeting we've had, but it's going to work towards cementing the partnership in an MOU. And the notion is that, I mean, FOWL has been amazing, terrific over the last 4 years. And they provided us with the kind of buffer that we need to get our house in order. And we don't want to lose that. And we want to have clarity and a very kind of well-defined collaboration with FOWL. And that's what we'll attempt to do to sort of build this MOU of how we operate. And I think it's essential to the library's well-being. And then the other priority is a volunteer framework. I mean, the reality is that we need volunteers. We need to have an idea of what we're going to do with our volunteers. So there's no lack of tasks, that's for sure. Not just fundraising, but also in the basic operations of the library. There's lots of room for volunteers so far, and we haven't had that outreach, but we need it. And so that's another priority for the year. As I already mentioned, we have to put in place financial policies and processes to ensure accounting oversight. That's going to be like a full year's job, I think. Lots of time, as we'll be moving to electronic banking. We may or may not get it done in 1 year, but we think that especially for future boards and future staff, whatever we can do to kind of put the structures in place that are simple and reliable and legal, that is, that'll be our legacy.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Okay, and then moving on. This is just for your benefit. And it's a statement of the municipal contributions from 2020 to 2024. Been very grateful for the last 2 years, which were generous. And yeah, I like that trend. We can just keep going with that. And this is our request. To be candid, you're kind of it's kind of a sales pitch. I could have done this in a number of different ways. I kind of settled on this one, but I'm kind of flexible in terms of what sales pitch I use. There were some unforeseen expenses this year. And as I mentioned, next year is a very important year for the library because we need to put our finances in order, and we haven't got the capabilities or the time for our volunteers to do it, so we will have to hire somebody to help us. I think ultimately we won't need much in the way of staffing. It's a pretty simple, it's not like running a village, it's much simpler. And it should be possibly even volunteer run, or a bookkeeper a couple hours a month or something. But next year, it'll be top heavy as we rely a lot on a consultant because we have to sort through a number of things. And one of those things, just for example, we're sorting through, and this is the other item, is the CRA. So, and this is not to kind of point fingers at all. It's but we discovered in 2024 that the payroll remittances for a portion of 2023 and 2024 were not paid. And we received a letter from the CRA, and since then we have paid them. But there was a penalty associated with that. The figures there, $1,355. So that was, it's challenging, as you saw from our budget. Like every penny counts. So this was, a bit of a kick. So we'd like help with that. We would like help with the person we're going to have to hire, and we've spent the meeting today kind of shaping some of that advertisement and what this person's going to do and his or her task as far as the project goes. And we're moving ahead quickly because we have to. So my thinking on this as a budget request is, take the large sum, cut it in half because we're partners, and we end up with a figure such as that, and 3,600, and I'll let you chew on that. But yeah, like I say, this is a big year for the library. By the end of this year, we could be on very solid footing and have a kind of sense of where we're going financially and how we're going to operate from year to year. So we don't want to cut corners with that project of putting our finances in order. Okay, that's it. Any questions?
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
thank you for, you teacher for many years, you got nice delivery, questions from anybody?
My students know that, yeah.
No, go ahead, Councillor, go on.
Just one question through you. For the accessible entrance, I know you've got the grant, but you didn't mention when that was being put in place. Is that for plan for 2025 or?
So
Is that a
the
slanted
CAO,
question or what?
the grant is for the village.
Oh,
I know, they work together, but
Yeah.
it's for the library, but it's a village Trillium grant.
Yeah,
And I'm just gonna say, there's been more curmudgeons in this thing than Carter has pills, but. So it's not the library holding things up, it's life holding it up. Does that set you up?
It does, thank you
Okay.
through you, Madam Mayor. We have explored different avenues, different ways to address the accessibility issues at the library, and now I think staff are ready April 1st to bring a briefing note with all the specifics in it.
Oh, good.
So,
It's been a, yeah, boondoggle.
I can imagine.
yeah.
Okay.
One quick comment, just because one of the things that didn't get covered in the report was some of the programming stuff. And at the meeting today, I learned about things like a bereavement group that happens every week with more and more people going, which to me is a pretty spectacular thing. People that are going there for knitting groups, but basically breaking social isolation. And the library is a community space that is increasingly, I would say, under Pam and the board's with their vision being utilized more and more, and I see it, I think everybody does, so congrats.
Yeah, and you know what, I think next year, we should report on our programs and services because
We'd love
we
to.
have that data. And that's something that, you know, Pam could do, and it occurred to me like 2 days ago that,
She doesn't like honking her own horn very much, but there's a
No,
lot to
no.
honk about it.
yeah, that's right. And it would surprise you. It really would surprise you how much happens in the library. It goes very much underreported, which is why the website, you know, kind of needs to happen.
You just have to walk your dog down Spring Street on any given day that the library is open, and the foot traffic in there is incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so next year that'll be part of it.
thanks,
Yeah,
Jane.
good idea.
That's where everybody's good?
Yep.
Thank you very much for that, we appreciate it. Okay.
Oh, you can stay through the whole
Stay.
meeting. if you want.
Gotta go.
Got something.
Stay fired up though, stay strong. Thanks, Jane. Okay, so that takes us to 6.1, which is Public Works briefing note. It's our annual drinking water report. And it is moved by Councillor Crawford, seconded by Councillor Card, that the Committee of the Whole, the Village of Westport, received the report entitled Public Works 2024 Drinking Water Annual Report for information purposes. Any questions for Peter? Go ahead.
Just a question, basically for my own information. When I look at the numbers here, our permit to take water is 900 cubic meters, is that right, Peter? For your worship. In 2021, I think there were 360 households in the village. And I think then we're at 12 cubic meters allowed per month per household, is that right?
Sorry, Councillor Card, I don't have the number.
Well,
that way.
we have 1,200 cubic meters available. And we allow so many cubic meters a month times, the new number's gotta be more than 360. Just how was that? You had to have some kind of a formula there, right, at those numbers, and I mean, is that privy to Watson, or is that something was supplied to the village? How do we get to that current number of so many cubic feet, allowed before there's an upcharge?
I see, I'm saying, so through your worship, so it's part of, a transition plan to get to zero included water. So the purpose of that Watson plan, the financial plan, is so that you have a base charge that covers the fixed costs of operating the system. And you have the variable charge that is based on some of the operating things, variable things, the chemicals, the hydro pumping, all of those aspects that are tied just directly to moving the water. So those costs are borne by the folks that are using the water. So if you use a little bit of water, your actual cost to the system and the other ratepayers is lower than if you use a lot of water. So the best way to have that set out from a fairness perspective is you go down to zero included water. And at the same time as going to zero included water and lowering the amounts included, we've been lowering the base rate year over year. So I think just on a related note to that, this year there's still a number of people that are seeing a reduction in bills. For the majority of users over the past 3 years, there's been a reduction year over year, month over month for their billing purposes. So the goal isn't so much that we're deciding how much each user is allotted. The purpose is kind of a smoother transition to where your base rate covers the fixed cost of the system and the consumption rate covers the variable cost of the system per cubic meter.
Okay, so that kind of breaks it out then as kind of comparable to your electric bill. So much for the service and so much to get the service to you kind of thing, what do we call it?
Precisely.
Delivery service, okay, so you're not impacting your base rate, that's a set thing, but you are certainly impacting the amount of water used, chemicals you use, blah, 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 and all on the operating side of it is what's affected.
Precisely.
Yeah, all right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Craft.
The only number in the report of concern is sodium, and through you, and it's not that unusual, in Portland, when I ran Country Road, sodium was our one reading. We had to post actually, because there's a concern with people with elevated, with issues that's a concern for. With our sodium readings, could you share with us what the trends have been, what we do and don't need to do about it, and what your hopes are for the future?
So, Your Worship,
ahead.
precisely the same, issues the wrong word for, it, precisely the same reasoning that you had so high readings of sodium as we do, is the groundwater source. We pick up sodium from the groundwater, we're well supplied, not to say you don't have it in surface water, but you get it from the ground, from minerals through the ground. As far as what we have to do, it's the same idea. We let the health unit know, and we post so that those that are on a sodium reduced diet are able to be aware and kind of count that in as how they go. Completely normal for any well user, whether you're on a municipal system or not. And then it's just kind of getting that word out. The water itself is a relatively low source of sodium, but since it's something that we can very finely control very finely monitor, and the user can control intake or measure their intake or monitor their intake, then that's just why we want to put the information out there. For the average person, that means there's no reason to even worry about that number. Only if you're on a sodium reduced diet and you want to track that. If I drink my liter of water a day and I know that I'm gonna be adding 77 milligrams to that total for the day.
Just I have a follow-up, and I mean, this, I would have come up in my comments around stormwater, but you raise it as is it influenced by road salt?
For sure, no, that we can tell, it's purely based on the well and the minerals in the ground. There's the concern for the quantities of road salt per the thousands and thousands of liters that are getting pulled. There's even if every bit of it was going in, it's not a noticeable amount. It's purely those groundwater.
Yeah, and just on the issue, this is an annual blip on our otherwise perfect report that sodium is always high, and so it won't be news to people. That was a good conversation to have to remind them.
And throughout the region, it isn't just the village of Westport.
Correct.
Just like to make a comment, I was wondering today, I saw the loader out front of the house there, and I realized what exactly you're doing, forecast heavy rain for tomorrow, so it's good to see that our public works are thinking ahead. Be nice not to see those big puddles there, they're clearing all the catch basins from snow and ice, so
Yeah,
nice to see that we're looking that far ahead.
yeah, very good. Anybody, anything else on that? Go ahead, Councillor Carty.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Major work coming up is increase in water treatment plant contact time. Are we like good where we are right now? Or can you just speak to that a little bit, please, Peter?
I'm only snorting because this has been on the books for, I don't know, 8 years.
Yeah,
And the mayor says she'll believe it when she sees it.
okay, thank you.
And I can appreciate that sentiment. No, it's chasing contracts, small project. We are fine with what we have now. Right now, the contact time, so the disinfection of the drinking water is used by adding chlorine and having it exposed to the amount of chlorine we have for a certain amount of time. Right now, that contact time extends outside of the plant. It's still ahead of the first customer, but ideally we would bring that inside of the plant. Inside the plant means we have more control and we can actually use less water when we're working through some of our maintenance where we don't have to pull so much water back. You'll see them flushing at the front door. But with contact time inside, you'll still see us flushing, but it'll be a lot less water, and then just far more control to have it entirely, all treatment happening entirely within the confines of the treatment plant. And then it'll also allow us to future-proof for some additional protections. Cartridge filtration is one that's been sat on in the kind of the parking lot waiting for this project as well.
That's good news. Yeah. Anybody else? All right, I can't remember if I read the motion, so I'll read it again. Moved by Councillor Crafter, seconded by Councillor Card, that the Committee of the Whole of the Village of Westport receive the report entitled Public Works 2024 Drinking Water Annual Reports for information purposes. I did read it, that's twice. Call the question, all in favor? Item number 6.2 is the 2024 Q4 briefing. So it's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that Committee of the Whole receive the report entitled Public Works 2024 Q4 briefing for information purposes. We love getting these reports. Councillor Card always wants to weigh in. That they're important to get and to understand. Anybody else, any comments? Councillor Aragona and then Councillor Crapper.
Just trying to understand the chart on page 17 of the agenda, page 3 of the report there. If I understand correctly through you, Madam Mayor, to Peter, we've added more homes, but there's a downward trend in the wastewater flows. Can you just put some context around that?
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
Let's go through your worship. So council's invested quite a bit of effort introducing inflow and infiltration. Meaning that we're going around actively looking for illegal sump pump connections, but failure points in systems, whether they're maintenance access ways or piping, and reducing groundwater and rainwater that end up in the system. It's expensive for all. Any bit of INI that comes in the system is water or wastewater that has to be treated, pumped, moved around, which all costs money. So as we work year over year to reduce that INI, go after illegal sump pumps and make sure that our pipes are as tight as they possibly can be, we are seeing benefits to in the form of reduced flows.
This is a celebration point for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Understood.
I've bragged to colleagues about it, that, you know, if you're prepared to invest the time and effort and money, you will get results. Yeah. Councillor Crafter.
Yeah, I've got a few from that report actually, but first one to follow up, if I
Go
go
ahead.
through, when is the next D51 report due? Or when will we see where we're at?
Go ahead.
Through your worship, so they're never due per se, they're formally used.
When will we next see one?
We are working on one for the springtime, but I don't have it in my hands yet.
I know some numbers were quoted at the recent watercolors meeting, and they're not numbers I heard before, so I was wondering if he was seeing numbers that I wasn't.
Don't know.
I can't speak on numbers I haven't seen, sorry.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't be if you hadn't produced them, there are no numbers out there, was the answer.
So through your, anybody, these are all publicly available numbers. So theoretically, anybody can grab these numbers and do their own math and work out with potentials. The D51 is a specific calculation that the Ministry of Environment uses
Right.
when we're reviewing systems to find percentages. We've seen those numbers change over the years. You can look at all of this publicly available data and you can make inference based on that. You can put in formulas, and you will get numbers, and they all have a reasonableness to them.
On that point, I was asked a question the other day by a builder in town, and his point was that when he builds, he's accountable for sewer capacity for that property if he's building a house on the septic system, based on number of bathrooms and bedrooms. Whereas a D51 is not inclusive, it doesn't reflect number of bathrooms, it talks about a number of people, and it seems like a kind of low number considering they're big houses. So you got a house with 4 bathrooms. If I build a house with 4 bathrooms, I gotta have a certain size septic system. In our development, we've got houses with 4 bathrooms, but the math is about number of people they presume might live in that house, which again, I think is kind of a low number. How did we come to that math?
Go ahead, Peter.
So your worship, at the risk of speaking into engineer's territory, the main thing is when you're designing a septic system, it has to be suitable for that house all the times. So you run a bunch of fixtures, they run through, and you need to be able to handle that wastewater flows. For us, the building department is basically just doing the size of the pipe that connects to our system, and then we're looking at those flows. Now, one of the advantages of having multiple houses tied into one system is arguably the peaking factor might not be high. So you might be having an event at your house and your septic system has to handle that event. Whereas you might be living in the village on municipal water and wastewater, and you might be having an event at your house, but your neighbor isn't.
Okay.
So just a different way of calculating those numbers, but they're pretty well established, and the default one's pretty conservative.
Okay, good, thanks for answering that. Quickly, I was interested in the EV charger numbers. Do you have any thoughts on our need to increase with that number of people using them? Do we have enough, are there people waiting?
Go ahead.
Your worship, so, yeah, I do pay extra attention to that, it's of interest to myself personally. But I think, to go back to when council's initial mandate, it was get us on the map.
Yeah.
So it was, I am looking at an EV charging map, people that are traveling in tourism, the tourists that are traveling with their EVs, they wanna see a spot on the map. And they're gonna bypass municipalities that don't have those spots, so your worship, remember, of course.
Mhm.
These numbers are really quite high for what I expect myself, they're good. I usually see in the summertime, it's rare to not see, two people hooked up. It's hard to tell if there's lines necessarily, I don't necessarily know if you see that. But I do think that the program itself has been extremely successful, and expanding that, to other areas of the village, might be something council would be interested in, but that'd be purely a council decision.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
Thanks.
Anybody, anything else? All right, then I'm just gonna call the question, all in favor? Carry. 8.3 is Public Works, the 2024 Stormwater Annual Report. And it's moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that the Committee of the Whole of the Village receive the report entitled Public Works 2024 Stormwater Annual Report for information purposes. Any questions? Councillor Crapper.
I would love to take a bit of time if we could just to learn about road salt and stormwater management. And there's lots of chatter about it. I know we've talked about it before, there's a strategy. When we have a big snow event, snow's gotta go somewhere. But people are wondering, when the snow is parked, with what we tend to use, and I'm not even that confident with what percent we use of salt versus sand, et cetera. So I'm interested in what gets used, how problematic that is for water, how we make decisions about where we put the snow. I know a lot of it goes up at the wastewater at the lagoon, and some of it gets, is closer to the lake. Can you just share with us the strategy, the risks, and what alternatives there might be for use of road salt in our village?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Councillor Crapper, I'd like to have Public Works provide us with a written report.
That would be great.
That would be better,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
There's a
And then
lot of interest in it.
There's several criteria that you mentioned there that I just don't want him to have to speak out.
Yeah.
But if you can bring a report in, ideally, Committee of the Whole next month, if that's doable. I'm seeing some head nodding. Then,
Yeah, that's what we do.
okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Hopefully there's no
that.
more snow.
Mhm.
Hopefully we're done with this.
Well, hopefully, it looks like tomorrow we may lose a lot of it, but I appreciate the questions and that this gives staff a chance to answer your questions.
Great.
In a little bit more detail. Anything else?
Nope.
Go ahead, Councillor Card.
Just a question through your worship, just generally reading through this and not being 100% accurate on all the short forms, abbreviations, that kind of thing. It looks to me like Public Works is facing an influx of demands for, I wouldn't even say reporting, but compiling data and reports and things that didn't exist a couple of years ago. Am I right in assuming that, or?
Yeah, so through your worship, this is certainly new, this is the first time this report's come through. This is part of that ECA for consolidated linear infrastructure. And at its most highest level, what the stated goal of the province is that they're going to make it so that instead of having multiple different little approvals for stormwater, and wastewater collection system as well, but we're used to dealing with that, stormwater is new. Instead of having a bunch of little approvals for a pipe here, an outlet there, a pond here, it's all amalgamated under one ECA. Now, along with that one ECA, that one permission, that one approval, it's a little bit more of tell us what you're going to do, here's what you need to do, and then show us that you're doing it. So whereas previously, maintenance might be as required, we now need to say when we're gonna do maintenance, complete that maintenance at the same time, or within a certain amount of time, and then report. So it's a lot more like, bringing stormwater into the same rules or the same framework as water and wastewater. That was something that I think I mentioned to council when this started up, was we knew this coming, we thought this was, like as stated, it was gonna make things a little bit more streamlined for the village. And then they dropped the guidance note and it went, oh, this is water and wastewater, which is of course a lot of effort. So we're working through that. This is the first year for the report. We're building those policies, we're building those procedures, and we're getting through that, working through that. But it is a new role, new responsibility to the village, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
All good. Okay, I'm sorry, Councilor Cardy and then Councilor Aragona.
Thanks. Through you, Madam Mayor. I did note that there's 5 catch basins that need replacing or repairs. I'm just wondering if that can be done in-house, or is that something we have to source out?
Go ahead.
There's a bit of a mix. We will take a crack at them internally, but some will require third-party contractors, or they can also be tied in with other work at the same time. So some of our curb and sidewalk work might have a couple of catch basins done at the same time. It's always an attempt to make it as efficient as possible.
Yeah, thank you. Is that good? Thank you.
Could you,
Councilor
Can I just on that one, as for the, okay,
Councilor
yeah.
I have 3 questions related to the, and then all related to each other. Regarding we're assuming the management and maintenance of our first stormwater pond in 2025 through your worship, Peter. Which pond are we assuming, what will be involved in maintenance, and what are the additional expenses we will be incurring for that?
Thank you.
So, still projected, so we do expect to assume the first pond, that'll be the Harvest Creek Pond. What we do ahead of assuming is we make sure that it's, right in its as new condition prior to assuming that. So the workload in the short term that we'll take is just simply annual inspections and some ground maintenance around it. We have to do inspections after every significant rainfall, of which the definition, I'm still getting a few mixed messages on what the definition of a significant rainfall is, but something like tomorrow's might qualify as under one of the exceptions, where it's not necessarily a quantity that's amount, but when added to the snow melt, we're getting guidance saying that would probably fit the criteria of significant. So within 24 to 48 hours of that, an operator just needs to go out and do an inspection and make sure everything's working properly. Medium term, there's regular maintenance such as sludge or sediment monitoring. There's some testing guidance that we're expecting to come out, but we don't have yet, which will be sampling, which will be done in-house, is expected to be done in-house. And then kind of that medium to long term is where we bring in excavators and actually remove some of that sediment material. So there are costs, there are operating costs. They're more or less meant to be built into the housing that they support.
One follow-up question, so that you were explaining the activity around when the stormwater is into the pond and when it's full, but is there monitoring, maintenance, operations, anything that's required when it's dry?
Go ahead.
So there's the same monitoring, if we don't have any flow coming out of it, the sampling point would just simply be dry. It would just be a note in the inspection that it was dry. We have the same scenario when we do groundwater monitoring up at the LSSDS. On the chart, it's just noted as dry. That's perfectly acceptable, arguably good, for around those types of sites. For here, we would still, we're still waiting to see what they want us to sample. So if they're gonna have us doing regular sediment samples, I don't know. But if it's dry, we'll be grabbing what we can see, or same thing, marking empty, but guidance to follow for that.
Thank you.
And the pond that we're talking about is the one that, the large one behind, I don't wanna say that, behind the houses on Concession. Is that the one we're talking about?
No, I don't believe so.
The small one in Harvest, in Harvest
By the
Creek,
old beer store.
Yeah.
the first one.
First one.
Okay, okay. So that, because I think that's part of what Councilor Aragona asked was which one?
Which one?
And our minds went to the big one. It looks like football field, but we're talking about the one that the homes on Bedford Street back onto.
Access from the DMV.
Yeah, okay, so we're clear?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, I think it's such a vital question, and it's not just about stormwater, it's about as we assume pieces of development ongoing. I think it's I want to know what those costs versus benefits are, and it's gonna be a learning time for all of us. So as we take on a park or let alone a stormwater pond, really get it, because future development is going to again say, you know, we're gonna build this and someday it'll be yours. Well, that's great if we can afford it. So I would ask that staff really do monitor the costs associated with this first stormwater pond so that we can assess what that cost is versus the benefit of the homes. I mean, that'll be the ongoing question as we ponder future growth in the community, in my opinion. What is the cost to us versus the benefit?
So, do you want, so that's sort of direction to staff, looking for input from UCAO on, maybe you want to talk to Peter, see what's involved with that, just so that we have a sense that, and give us a sense of that that's not so difficult and it can be done, because then does that roll up in a report? So if you guys could talk about a little bit more, I really know what to expect.
Okay, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, just to comment high level on that, that will be and was contemplated in the development charges study, things of that nature, maintenance, ongoing costs, which will be coming forward at a public meeting, and then a report will accompany that as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. All right, so I'll just call the question then, all in favor? Good, it's good discussion, thanks, team. All right, now, we get to Chris just more. I just want to say, with two things on here for the harbor tonight, I'm pretty happy, it feels good. 6.4 is the report from the harbor in relation to additional seasonal slip analysis 2025. As moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that the committee of the whole receives the report entitled Recreation Westport Harbor Additional Seasonal Slip Analysis 2025. And that the committee of the whole recommends that council approve the trial of 4 to 6 additional seasonal client slips for 2025. In addition to kayak rental space and autumn special offer pricing. Okay, well, we probably could have broken those into 3, but we'll go with any, do you want to kind of lead this, Chris, before we get questions?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor.
You don't have to, the report's well written.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to lay out a variety of different options, trying to make up for some of the losses we incurred this past year at the harbor, and also trying to, see into the future as in terms of where things are going, trends that we might be experiencing. Also recognizing, there are these acts of God, whether it's forest fires or bad weather or COVID or the
Bridges collapsing.
or the situation between Canada and America for this upcoming season. Like, there's so many variables that we have to sit on the docks and wait and hope for boats to come versus trying to strike that balance, and it's a delicate one between getting more boats on the dock, like bird in the hand versus bird in the bush. The tourist season is heavy those 8 weeks of July and August. And so you do want to have dock space available for all of those wonderful tourists that come to enjoy our village. But, it's striking the balance between that and trying to guarantee some additional income moving forward in time.
So let's pick these off one at a time, maybe. So the recommendation is 4 to 6 additional seasonal slips. What are you thinking there? Are you thinking like linear feet, really?
Yeah, like it would be the next 4 to 6, whatever we decide, people on the wait list.
Okay, so the 4 to 6 is for us to, you're looking for some direction from council on 4 to 6. You can live with either. All right, so let's just talk about the 4 to 6 for a moment. Go ahead, Councillor
I
Crawford.
mean, personally, I like the idea. I think, being nimble is key. And so would we be able to be nimble when, let's say, I mean, the dollars,
Mhm.
you look at the public, look at that report, like the dollars are significantly different between what you get for a seasonal slip versus daily rental. 4 to 5 times the revenue. So, but we want whatever we can get. If we were to take 6, what's the attrition like? Will we lose 6 next year and be able to go, okay, well, we took 6 more, we'll get that, or how would we get that space back if indeed there's a demand for dailies?
Well, they don't own a spot. Go ahead, Chris, like
Yeah, most of our seasonal just want to keep coming back year after year after year, so once you give it
So
out.
we don't lose them, that was a key question.
Yeah, once you give it out, it's probably gonna be there, unless that seasonal person, you know, in a couple of years' time says, I'm not coming back. We could then choose to not renew that seasonal spot.
What if we just gave it? Because there's a gamble here, is what you're pointing out, there's a risk. We could potentially lose long-term revenue of, if we have demand from, the boat starts coming back or whatever. Could we not just say, well, you 6 people on the list, we're giving it to you for next year, we're not necessarily giving it to you forever?
Well, of course, we could do that. That's not what our bylaw says now, but we could amend it.
Well, it's just because,
If we get in a pinch, we can certainly amend what the rules are and the last 6 people drop off or whatever the recommendation
yeah,
is.
that to me, other than getting ourselves, locking ourselves into a corner where we forever lose that
No.
revenue.
No, we can change the bylaw. Do we have to change the bylaw for this as well?
So thank you through you, Madam Mayor. So this one is trialing. I believe we use the word trialing.
Okay.
4 to 6 additional seasonal client slips for 2025 only.
Okay, so we don't have to change the bylaw, so that
Perfect.
follows that one.
I just need to read
So-
the briefing note better.
I've, just numbers, 4 to 6, back up. Mr. Chismore is looking for some direction.
Okay.
Anybody, can we go 6? You can live with it.
If we're willing to adapt on a yearly
Yeah.
basis to what the business situation is, I would go for the 6, because any good business decisions based on the puddle you're standing in right now.
Yeah.
And I think Mr. Chismore's made a good assessment of, and given us good facts to work with and good numbers to work with. For this year, I would go for 6, because this could be a devastating year. We have a fragile budget and we need to be on track. So money we can count on right now, to me, is more important than what if money down the road.
Yeah, Councillor Gold.
I'm going to agree with Councillor Card there on that, especially Chris's report is very well written, gives us all the options, but the thing that stuck out at me are two. The decrease in traffic in 2024 was just over 10%. I'm assuming the South Calip Causeway is not going to get fixed this year. And given the economic situation, that might actually come down a little further. So I'm tending to agree with the 6. I think that we should go for the 6, but also for another reason, and that is this has been an ongoing concern of people that have been on the wait list for a long time. I think it would be a good idea for us to show that we're making progress on giving people slips who have been on that list for a long time. So I think it makes sense from that perspective.
Okay, just a couple of things, we're giving, it sounds like 2025 is gonna be a trial year, so when they are told that they have a slip, they'll know that they're in a trial year. LaSalle Causeway, so we've done, the mayors on the Rito have done a lot of work on that. We lobbied the federal government very, very hard. We have landed that it will be open weekly. One day, I mean, I'm pulling from my memory now, but, about a 12-hour opening. Takes 4 hours to remove the bridge, takes 4 hours to replace it, so, that gives 6 some odd hours in the middle for traffic to know. It's not what we wanted. We looked for, much more access for people. If you haven't voted, if you're not a voter, it may sound like a really great plan, but for anybody who's been on the water, a lot of things can get in the way of you just making that quick little trip into the harbor, weather, water, waves, and whatever. Anyway, so that will be open. I think maybe through you, CAO, let's get that decision from the feds and put it on our website somewhere so that the number of people are gonna start asking, Mr. Chisholmore, we can just direct them to that for information, and I think I've got the hours right, but anyway, but it's gonna be an opening weekly, but 4 hours, they say to take it out, 4 hours, they say to put it back in, and that's what we got. Anybody else, anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that in the in-depth report we have here, I was impressed to see that he's actually taken 2 village people and 2 outside the village on the waiting list. And without giving names, he's given the priority, vote 1 and 2 on this list, vote 1 and 2 on this list. So he knows exactly what the numbers are gonna be. He's not just guessing there. So he knows what the dollars he can count on from those votes. So that's taken it to the nth degree, I think.
So the autumn special, that's something the staff can figure out. I don't think way into that. Is there, the kayak storage? Could we just have a little bit more detail on that? And more, whether, both Mr. Chisholm or the CA, what's the risk to the village if something happens?
Through my mayor, yeah, I was approached several times last year asking if there was the possibility of kayak storage for private residents of the village who would have to cart their kayaks all the way down to the lake to use and then bring them all the way back home. After being asked that several times, began thinking about it and thought, well, it would be fairly straightforward to construct in-house just a simple A-frame kayak storage unit, one, or depending on the demand more. But it would then be up to those people to properly secure their kayak for security and safety purposes. We would be charging them a rental fee to store their kayak there. But it would be up to them to make sure that it was secured to their.
Okay, so that's kind of the first we chatted, but I, before we kind of bring the idea back, let's change the motion. See, already knows where I'm going. Let's just double check with our legal counsel, because as soon as we start accepting money for something, does that raise our liability? So if we don't mind just figuring that out, then I think that that'd be an easier decision for us to make if we have that legal opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, and so if that's okay, Mr. I love the idea and I love your spirit of working with people in the community. Just, we don't want someone to go down and set them on fire or steal them. I'd like to know what the liability is to the village before we ask council to approve it.
And I know the one question that it will generate immediately is like, are these for rent? You know what I mean? So,
Yes, yeah.
There's
That's the
ways to.
Yeah. Okay, so that means for the mover and the seconder, if we move them, amend the motion.
Excuse me, Councillor Carey, you have a question?
I'm sorry.
No, through you, Madam. No, I'm just wondering if there was a desire for us to purchase some kayaks ourselves as the village and rent those out, but I'm not sure about the liability of that is all. Like, do people inquire about that, Mr. Chisholmore?
Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, they have, and we had put in a couple of different grants over the past couple of years to try to get a few and see if it, but those grants were unsuccessful, and there would be the liability of it, right? Like, I know there's a kind of an outfitter in Chafee's Locks, Rito Tours, who used to offer a plethora of different experiences, from pontoon boat rides to kayaking, paddleboarding, all that kind of stuff. I know they had to scale back some of the things that they offered due to liability. So it's one of those things that would be nice. Most people that come down and ask, they're asking, do you do boat tours, right? To get in a boat and go for a tour of a rebuilding. Yeah.
But if we're going to Mr. Fleming anyway, why don't we ask if we own them, it's a liability, and then you guys have that legal opinion if you move forward or not? Yeah, good question. Go ahead.
Just one last question on the kayak, on the A-frame. I'm assuming the cost through you, Madam Mayor, I'm assuming the cost is minimal for this?
So the A-frame thing will come back. We're gonna remove it from the motion tonight, and if they wanna proceed with it, you'll get a whole new motion on that. And now the clue is, what's the cost gonna be? Yeah. And so can I just have a friendly amendment for Councillor Card and Crapper that we change, we stop. The second part of the motion says, committee of the whole recommends the council approve a trial of 6 additional seasonal client slips for 2025, period. Take out the kayak and the special price. You guys just do the special price. That's good with you guys? Okay, anything else about, okay, just think summer for a minute. Okay.
And not carrying my kayak.
Yeah, there you go.
go.
I see them wheel them on little
Oh, yeah.
wheels and all in favor of the motion. Very good. Thank you, Chris. Good, well done. All right, and now, we're doing something about winter storage for docks. So let's go back to the agenda. Alrighty, so, we are at 6.5 winter dock storage within Westport Harbor. The motion is moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that the committee of the whole receives the report entitled Recreation Winter Dock Storage within the Westport Harbor. And that the committee of the whole recommends that council direct staff to develop a process for dock storage at the Westport Harbor and to include the provision of cost recovery for this process in the general rates and fees bylaw. I expect there's a million questions on this. I saw Councillor Crapper first and then.
I don't even have questions. I think it's absolutely, we need to understand from a liability point of view, from a practicality point of view. I've always wondered this, and it is something that organically has happened over time.
Right, but
We don't have any kind of control of as it sits, which is inappropriate. And so I fully support the idea of the recommendation
of which,
of option. I don't-
Of option getting-
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
which is cost recovery.
Mhm.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, always been a pet peeve of mine because I've been involved in a little bit when the village used to put their own docks in there. Sometimes you couldn't even get them in because there was other people's docks there. It's not the fact that, it's not the dollars and cents, it's the fact that nobody asks permission, they just do it. And there's no commitment as to a time to get them out of there. So I know that this year, there's at least one instance where Mr. Chismore was living with a pet there in the harbor that he didn't exactly want, so, further to that, I think that the whole system, I mean, there's so many docks floating around the lake in the spring. That the park should have, there should be a licensing for your dock, a free license. You gotta put, just like your boat, you gotta put on your dock, if it floats away, you see all kinds of things on Facebook, we found a dock in our, up on our beach today. This way, you can identify these people that bring their docks for home care over the winter. And, you have some recourses how to contact them and have the culprit removed at the appropriate time. The fact that, Mr. Chismore has to kind of take it in hand and there's paperwork and what have you involved, I think there should be some type of minimal cost recovery there that, to pay for his time and whatever effort extra to his village duties he has to put into it.
I'm hardcore compared to you guys.
Speak up.
I'll let Councillor Aragona go first and then I'll.
I'd be remiss if I didn't hit on the revenue potential here. So my question through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Chismore is why cost recovery? Why not try to structure a fee structure that actually brings us some revenue? Because this, to me, is a value added service that the harbor is offering.
That's to be debated on a further submission would be what the fee would be.
Okay, yeah, I thought about trying to reach out to others who might store docks, but
You gotta go
think
pretty
that's-
far and wide.
yeah, that's the thing, yeah, so I think we'd be generating something on our own to properly say,
Yeah.
it's like a storage fee, basically.
So I am torn, have been since I read this briefing note. My gut went to number 2. Get out of the business of it. And I'm from the older days when they arrived and they were just put there. Then we worked with the person who was towing them over to secure them. But I'm in the middle between, I don't know why we're doing that. Why can't they put them somewhere else or charge a significant amount for doing it? And so my significant is significant. Like I think $1,000 a dock, or they'll find someplace else to put it. I'm just one person, but I know you say that this is value added. There's a lot of non-village residents that are putting them in there now. So that, just throwing that out there, I get stuck on number 2. I just think it's easier that we don't have the headache. We don't have the challenges of the situation that arrived this May 24. Having names and contact information may help, but I can live with number 3 as long as I'm with you. It should be not just cost recovery, it should be something that helps generate, it's a non-tax revenue that will help the harbor budget line. Okay, I got questions now, so I'm gonna go here first, Councillor Carr, and then.
Yeah, I
Councillor
just think
Carney.
it's a decision that we can't make right here and right now. I mean, for the short term, I think taking control of the situation is important, but for the long term, I think there are other things, there are other areas that need to be discussed here apart from the docks themselves. So I don't think this is I think we need to talk about it further. And when we're better equipped to talk about it, I think, have more information.
Oh,
And
so
without opening up a can of worms here, that's all I'll say.
go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, how many docks are we talking, Mr. Chismore? That,
Yeah, through that, there's probably between 10 to 12 docks.
okay,
And the majority of those, I believe, are put there by a dock company. They come and collect those
Drag 'em
those
over.
people's docks and drag them in. There are a number of like individuals, and one of those individuals, I will say, did come and ask because they were brand new. And they wanted to make sure they weren't causing any trouble, and they came and asked, and I was very, very
Nice.
appreciative of that. That's the first person that's ever done that.
okay.
But most are, I think, through a dock company.
Okay, so are you looking for a deferral? Is that what you're saying?
I am short
'Cause-
term, yes. Yeah, I think there are things that we could talk about that really don't have a lot to do with the dogs exactly. Us, more the ownership of the docks than the docks themselves. I'll defer to the council's wishes though.
Councillor Arizona, you hand.
I'm still struggling with the cost recovery as opposed to charging a substantial service fee
That's so
for,
unlike you.
look at me trying to make money somewhere.
Yes, exactly.
So I think it might, just to pick up on Councillor Card's suggestion, maybe a deferral is the best approach so that we get a report back on cost recovery versus potential increased cost for doing this. It is a storage fee that we would be applying. And I know, if you store anything these days, it costs a lot of money. So I would like to look at this a little bit more detailed. So maybe a deferral with a little bit more information. And agreement also on, I agree also that we need a policy for this. So maybe that's the time to have that conversation. So I'd like to see something that gives us the balance and the information we need to make a decision, cost recovery as opposed to a substantial fee.
Okay, so let's get that motion on the floor. Do you want to speak to the motion when it comes up?
Yeah,
The deferral?
it's in terms of data, the data that if we're going to gather more information, I have a thought
Okay, well,
about some of that.
Oh, okay, so if you'll move it, that we defer this until, so I guess, Mr. Chismore, would a month give you some time to put some numbers together? Okay, good, good, yeah, all right, so if Councillor Card will move it and Councillor Aragona will defer this item until committee of the whole in April. And we would be looking for some financial analysis to be done to help guide us whether we choose as suggested, just cost recovery or a storage fee. Or
Or a hybrid, because I mean, like we
Or
do
not.
with slips, or waiting lists, if like a village resident may well be value added, but if we're having a dock company tow people all the way down Burrito Lake,
we are,
put them here, then I have a much bigger problem with that. So
yeah,
separating some of the data that would be helpful once it starts with knowing whose docks they are, which we'll start to understand as people take them out, I hope.
yeah,
And we do have a big horizon of time because they're not bringing it back till September, so.
yeah, but when there's, so, and look at the legal ramifications of that, how can you deny somebody or give it to somebody because of residency and all that sort of stuff, so if we can have that report maybe, now that we've added that other wrinkle to it, as Councilor Crapper says, there's no great urgency that, but that will also, if we do it in May, you'll see the people coming to get their docks out
Mhm.
at the same time, so it might be really timely for you. Okay, so on the deferral, I'll call that question, all in favor? Carried, all right. Well done, team. Thank you very much, Mr. Fitzgerald, for the good discussion. And so, I'll get the deferral wording from you and sign that later. Sure, yeah. All right, so item number 7, moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that the committee of the whole approve the change in the 2025 schedule of meetings to move the March 18th council meeting to March 24th, 2025 at the regular time. My apologies for not getting that in a couple of weeks ago. Any issues with that? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, and that takes us any notices of motion? Any announcements? Hockey, gotta come back to hockey. The Ritos, of course, won their round of the, who wants to report on that? Somebody other than me, either Amy or Chris or Barry.
So Westport Ritos are well-known, well-supported team, won the first round, the quarterfinals. They're playing, they're playing in the semis right now. We lost the first game, but I'm very confident that we'll take this series too, based on what I saw in the first game. I mean, we need to control a few things. Our tempers, maybe the penalties, but the talent is there to overcome, and the coaching is superior. I think we've got the makings of winners there, so definitely gonna need the support of the public though, to cheer them on. So if you can get to a game, get to it and cheer lots of local players and lots from far away too. So it's a great team, a young team, and I can't even remember being that energetic, so.
So the second game is Friday night here, 7:30, and then the next 2 games are away. So Friday night, and if you get like Councilor Card said, if you can get out to a game, it's great. You're gonna know almost everybody in the building, so it's a real good visiting opportunity. Any other announcements? Go ahead, Mel.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to let council and the public know that April 1st, we've tentatively, actually not tentatively, it is scheduled a public meeting for this, to hear the zoning bylaw amendment application, to hear public feedback at that point in time. April 1st at 5 p.m. and then the committee of the whole meeting will follow after that.
Got it.
And April 3rd, we've scheduled the public meeting for the development charges study. And that's to solicit feedback on that study, of which a report will be posted on the website a week in advance as usual, Monday for the public. So if there's any questions or comments you'd like to make, please submit ahead of time so our consultant can be prepared. Otherwise, you can make your comment at that point in time, but she'll take some time to get back to you.
Okay, so if we can slow it down, April the 1st, something that we're familiar with, the zoning bylaw, public meeting. And that's not the opportunity where we weigh in. This is where we're just, it's a public's meeting and we listen.
That's right.
And then 2 days later, it's the development charge, public meeting, same thing. We assemble, but it's the public's opportunity to be heard by council.
That's right.
Oh, right, I got it? Okay, good, thank you.
Just because of the interest in phase 3A and the numbers that were at the recent meetings held up there, are we a little concerned about space? And numbers, or do you wanna have people I just wouldn't want people to come down here and not be able to get in.
I suppose it's council's call. We know the capacity in this room is for 7, and then the staff and council. So if council wishes, I can explore bigger venues.
Yeah, maybe, I think that's a really good suggestion. Maybe we should. It's a
For that
public
one, for
meeting,
sure.
and then, we can retire and come back here for a committee meeting, but
Sure.
Church hall would be the only place, so really, that's accessible. The upstairs at the firehouse is not an accessible spot.
yeah, but we'll leave that to staff to figure something out on the fire. We can't take that again.
Not upstairs.
No, I didn't know you said that. We're good? Announcements? All right, questions from the public, questions from the media?
We do have a question from the public as well.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. We have one from Mr. Mark Parliament, who said, good evening. How is the village going to get around the fact that they are trying to bill for a space they do not own? That is a navigable waterway, and the village has no authority to bill for. But through you, Madam Mayor, you'll see in the map, we've actually ratified a rental agreement with West Canada for a portion of that, base, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, so that we've got confirmation we can actually implement a policy on,
Right.
for Mr. President's information, but that's the comment.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you've answered that we have a lease with them and we can charge for the space in that lease. Did you want to add that, Peter?
Yeah, no, through your worship, when council worked it with the Crown for that lease agreement, that includes allowing the control of those waters to people who want to bring boats or docks within that, and we got that opinion direct from Parks Canada.
Good. Thanks, team. Very good. And then, go
I
ahead.
have one quick
Go ahead.
question. No, you can. Just on the Public Works fourth quarter report, there was a reference to the environmental assessment for wastewater treatment expansion work continuing, and that an assimilative capacity study was tendered with results received, and I was just wondering if there's any more information on that.
Okay, thank you. Either CAO or Mr. Evans?
Yeah, so I did close that report off, apologies, but just remember this, updates are from the past, they're from last year. So the assimilative capacity study is, was removed from the table for surface water. The EA process continues as normal.
Yeah,
All right, so that's not a new.
no. And so thank you for asking the question in case somebody else read it and wondered the same thing. It's nothing new.
Great,
Okay,
that's it. Thank you.
all right, thank you very much. So we're gonna go into closed session for a few minutes, and the motion is moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy, that the agenda. That we, just take a mover a second, unless I moved it over here somewhere. I'll take a mover a second to get us into closed. Thank you, Cardy, Aragona. We'll go into closed session, that we're moving into closed session, as permitted under the municipal act to consider personal matters of identifiable individuals, including municipal employees. All in favor? Carried. If it's We're back live? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. We, council or committee, met in closed session to discuss matters pertaining to personal matters with identifiable individuals, including municipal employees. The council, took no action, but, was briefed by staff. So then we come to the adjournment, which is moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that this meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Village of Westport is adjourned at 6:47 PM. All in favor?